Welcome to Illo Talk. I'm Corey Kerr, and this is 100 Days of Animation, day 90. 10 more days to go. Today we're going to talk about the benefit of pain and struggle. I feel like it's appropriate given that I have been struggling. So, intro music, and then we'll talk. So last night, which was technically day 90, but I didn't do anything on day 90, so today's day 90. Starting to fall apart here on the whole everyday no matter what thing. But anyway, last night I was on Artcasters with Joshua Kimball and Scott Cirkland, and it was awesome. We talked about a lot of stuff, and I've got links in the bio. So, not the bio, the description. Links in the description. So check that out. It's about 90 minutes, but it's really good. I feel like we covered a lot of really good topics. And I drew this based on some elephant skin and some fat rolls and Jabba and Leia and whatnot. One of the things that I really like about this, which I will talk about in the thing, is I'm not going for like the slave Leia. I'm going for like the Hutt Slayer, not the like submissive role that she played, but the literally using the chains that bound her to defeat her captor and break free. Kind of the antithesis of damsel in distress. So anyway, one of my favorite scenes. So yeah, did that, and you can see me draw that, and I'm going to do a little time-lapse thing later. But one of the things that we talked about that came up was the value of struggle. And the reason I want to talk about the value of pain and struggle is because, oh man, I've got 10 days left, but it's getting so hard to do this. And so, but I'm significantly faster at a lot of the stuff that I'm doing in After Effects than I was a couple months ago, right? Part of that is that I'm doing it a lot, but part of that is that it has been hard. And if you remember at the beginning, those of you that have been following along the entire time, I went through a period of time where I re-rigged the same character. I don't even know how many times. I felt like I was working on that one character for like 3 or 4 weeks. And I kept having to redo it and redo it and redo it and redo it. Well, I can rig a character super fast now, like super fast. And the reason that I can rig that character super fast is I figured out the solution to a painful problem. And so our bodies don't like pain. Pain is a message that something is wrong, right? There are people that have diseases where they can't feel pain, and they're like in danger all the time because their body can't send them a signal that there is a problem that needs to be attended to, right? And so if I have like a pain in my shoulder, which I got last week doing pull-ups, and it hurt a lot, that was my body saying, there's a problem here, right? And so pain is a useful thing, but it's a frustrating thing. But you hate it. Your body hates it. It's not a state that we want to be in. And so one of the things that we do when we're experiencing pain is we remember the solution significantly better than the exact same solution without the struggle and without the pain. So, for example, when I am working with my students, one of the classes that I teach is vector graphics, and you can see a lot of the material that I've created for that class on my YouTube channel under the vector graphics playlist. But basically, I'm teaching them how to use Adobe Illustrator, but really what I'm teaching them is I'm teaching them how to learn, and I'm teaching them how to think. Those are the two things that I want them to know. There's actually a third thing that they can do pretty much anything they put their minds to. But those three things are actually really hard to get to. And so it's a very challenging course. If all I was trying to do was teach them how to use Adobe Illustrator, well, I don't need to be there as a professor. They don't need to do that in school. Like literally, you can teach yourself how to use a piece of software. You just sit down and do it. You get a book for dummies and you do it, right? But it's not going to stick unless you struggle, okay? And so here's what I see a lot. I'll show people something. It's a quick and easy solution. If they haven't struggled with that thing prior to me showing it to them, it's neat. But then within an hour or so, that information is gone. It was in short-term memory and flushed. And here's what happens is our brains are lazy. And when I say lazy, I don't mean like indolent. What I'm talking about is that our brains and our muscles maintain a level of stasis that is required of them. The minimum level of stasis that's required, right? And so your brain doesn't want to learn because learning is hard, especially once you're older than like 6 to 12. You pretty much have decided from like a biological standpoint that you know everything you need to know to survive, right? And so learning becomes significantly more difficult as you age, especially into your mid-20s. Like your brain is about as developed as it's going to get by about 24. And at some point I'll talk about Perry's neurological stages of development because that's a really interesting topic. But anyway, your brain is about fully developed by the time you're about 24, 25. And beyond that point, biologically, you don't have a lot more to learn. Like you know how to eat, you know how to hunt or farm or whatever, right? If we're going back thousands of years. But we need in today's society, we need to know more information than that, and you need to continue to learn, right? And so because your brain is trying to avoid learning, what it will do until you train it otherwise, what it will do is when you hear information that you haven't struggled to get, when you come across a solution or a piece of information, your brain will give you a sensation, a feeling that you understand. And understanding is the worst thing you can get, right? Because understanding is the lowest rung of the ladder of being able to do something, right? If you feel like you understand something and you don't push past that point, that will be short-term memory and it will be gone. Basically what your brain is saying is it's saying, shh, you got this. Don't worry about it. You're totally on top of this. And this happens to me all the time. Have you guys ever had that feeling where it's like, oh yeah, I'm all over this. Totally get it, right? I don't even need to take notes or write this down or do it because I understand, right? And then you try to do it a few hours later, or a week later, a couple days later or whatever. And it's like you've never seen the thing or heard anything about it before, whatever it is that you were trying to do. And it's because you didn't struggle, right? Now, here's a different scenario. Different scenario is, say you're trying to do something, okay, in Illustrator or whatever, right? You're trying to do something and you fight and you struggle and you try a million different things and you cannot for the life of you figure it out, right? And it becomes this thing. It haunts you. You have trouble sleeping that night because you're still like milling it and running it through your brain like, what was it that you were supposed to do that you've been doing wrong? What is the problem? The next morning in the shower, you're like trying to solve that problem, right? You go back again and it doesn't work. And you go to talk to somebody who knows what they're doing. And they show you this thing that takes like 10 seconds. Oh yeah, you just need to do this. And your mind will remember that solution. The reason it will remember that solution is because that problem was painful and you struggled and fought for it. And you earned the right for your mind to say, that's going to go in long-term memory. I'm going to move that from the brain down into the fingers because that is useful information, right? And it's the same thing as what your muscles do, okay? So your muscles are in a state of stasis. They will stay as toned as they need to be. Somebody like me in the current state that I'm in, which is not in shape, my level of tone, the minimum requirement for my muscles is I need to be able to walk quickly to work and climb stairs. I don't lift heavy things on a daily basis because I hurt my shoulder a week or two ago. I've been trying to like let that heal, so pull-ups are not a thing or whatever. But as soon as I start introducing stress or strain or pain or struggle into that environment, my body gets the idea that, oh, wait, more is required of me. The level of stasis that we have, the minimum toneness that we need to meet the minimum standards and needs that are being introduced into this environment is higher now. And so you hypertrophy, right? Your muscles get bigger and stronger and more toned. The way that actually works is you have muscle fibers. Like you have little fibers that kind of go from, point to point, right? You have fast twitch and slow twitch. And I don't need to get into that, but there's two types of fibers. Okay. And what you're actually doing when you're lifting weights or running or whatever is it's called micro trauma. And micro trauma is you get tiny little tears on those fibers. If I'm benching or doing military press or curls or butterflies or whatever, those fibers strain to the point of a micro trauma, on a not cellular level, but all the way across the muscle. And so blood rushes through that area. It is painful. There's lactic acid buildup and there's all this stuff, right? And your body is like, whoa, that's not fun, right? And so to avoid those micro traumas, I'm going to increase the level of tone that I have on a daily basis at any given time so that when I'm introduced to that stress, that resistance, that struggle again, I don't tear muscle fibers anymore, right? And that's why when you're working out, you have to keep increasing weight, increasing reps, increasing distance or duration, is because your body is raising its level of readiness to meet the needs, right? Your mind is the same thing. Your mind will do as little as you allow it to do. And so all of this comes around, probably not surprising, to passion projects and side hustles, right? If you come home from whatever it is you do during the day, and the only thing that you do is entertain yourself, your brain knows for a fact that it doesn't need to learn anything, you don't need to get better at anything, and you can just shut off and tune out and be entertained, right? Bring me the stimulus with no resistance, no fight, no struggle. And your brain will atrophy, right? Did you know when you learn new things that your brain physically changes? They did a study with cab drivers. There's a certain part of your brain that does like visual spatial mapping that like tracks like where things are in relationship to other things, and it's what you would use to navigate a city, right? And so I believe it was in London that this study was done. But they said, oh, that part of the brain is bigger in cab drivers. They took a general sampling of the people and they noticed that people who drove taxi cabs had a larger part of their brain that dealt with visual spatial mapping, right? And so they were like, oh, people who have a larger portion of that must be predisposed to be cab drivers, right? But then somebody said, let's test this theory. I wonder if the theory of neuroplasticity is true, right? Neuroplasticity is the idea that your brain can physically alter and adapt itself to the struggle and stimulus that it's introduced to all the time. And so they took a bunch of people who had not yet become cab drivers, but were heading that direction. They're in training and they measured that part of their brain. And then they came back a few years later after they had been doing that every day for their job. And they measured that part of their brain. That part of their brain had grown. Neuroplasticity is true, meaning that your brain acts very much like a muscle. If parts of your brain are engaged on a daily basis and there is resistance and struggle, then your brain is going to physically alter itself to get better at those things that you introduce to it. And so if you want to get better at something, you just have to have targeted, focused work. And the best way to have targeted, focused work is to do a side hustle, a passion project, some sort of thing that you are not required to do, that you get excited about and becomes a habit. And I will tell you, the reason that I drew this is because I started to get really antsy. I hadn't drawn anything in a really long time. I'm loving this animation thing, but illustration has become part of who I am, almost to an addiction standpoint, where if I go a while without it, I don't feel right. Things are just kind of wrong. And if you want to get to the level of that with any skill or with any activity, then all you have to do is struggle. And then the solution to that struggle is that your mind and your body will raise the level of its readiness for that activity. And then when that activity is not there, your body's like, I'm ready. And your mind's like, hey, where is that? I'm sitting here ready. I've grown this part of your brain to be bigger so that I can handle these types of challenges. And I've put stuff in long-term memory so that we can like react quickly and whatnot. Anyway, it's kind of an interesting thing. So we talked about that a little bit last night, but it just made me think of the the ways I didn't used to draw all the time. I mean, I went a couple decades where I didn't draw much at all. There wasn't a lot going on. And then in the last, I don't know, whatever it is, what is it? 4 or 5 years? I've been drawing a lot, and now I need to. It's become something that makes me uncomfortable when I don't do it. And that is because my being has been altered by this creation of a habit that I have. I feel weird if I sit down and I watch TV for an entire evening and don't accomplish anything. If I go a day or two without working on a passion project, without moving the needle on something creative in my own free time, it feels wrong. And so a lot of people ask me, and other people, like not just me, like I'm some sort of weird guru or something, but like anybody who does this type of thing, look at any of the art casters, right? They're all doing this type of thing. A lot of people will ask them or us, people that are spending their time, their free time creating, how do you find the time to do that? It's like, well, it's important. And so you carve out the time, you make the time, you make it happen. Well, how do you stay motivated? Well, motivation follows work. I talked about that on another video, but you work, and that struggle, and the reason motivation follows it is because it becomes part of who you are. You have built a habit. You are motivated because your mind and body has adapted itself to that activity. And when that activity is not there, you feel motivation, right? And at some point in time, you feel withdrawal, right? And so anyway, we're very Pavlov's dog, when we get those rewards, the dopamine and the serotonin and all the good feelings that come with, success and whatnot. When we are rewarded when we do those things. And so when we go a little ways without that reward system, then we start to crave that reward system. We start to crave that reward, right? And so because we're craving that reward, I don't know why I'm having trouble saying that word, because we're craving it, we call that motivation. And so just a little bit of like the scientific theory behind why I think motivation follows work, because work is struggle, and your mind and your body will adapt to struggle so that it doesn't go through micro trauma each time that activity is introduced. And because of that adaptation, you are rewarded. And because of that reward, when that reward is not there, you long for that reward, thus motivation. So anyway, just kind of an interesting thing. There's some weird theory for you. There's some science there, but also some just supposition. Anyway, so yeah, you can catch my stuff. Oh, and what you've been seeing on the screen, that's what I did tonight. I'm actually just working on the timing of the animatic. I added some speed lines and things like that. So I'm going to get him to land. He's going to do that like land, and then the roly-polies are going to like pop into a ball and bounce away, and then there's going to be the rest of that scene. So in any case, you can catch my stuff at CoreyKerr.com, and I've launched a new store. Much better product. I like the old product, but this is so much better. And I have phone cases and stickers and mugs in addition to t-shirts and prints and hoodies and tanks and razorbacks and muscle tees and all of that jazz. And it's being fulfilled by Designed by Humans, who are fantastic at what they do. I really like the quality. I've seen several of the things that come out of that shop. Like it a lot. So I recommend it. Also, if you are interested in this piece or other pieces that I have hand inked, and you want a one-of-a-kind original that no one else on the planet has, I also have those available at CoreyKerr.com, and you can just click on buy and you will see original art. And I will ship those out once a week, those orders. So go check that out. And if you liked this video, then you can check out a lot of my other videos, and I have them kind of organized into playlists. And I will leave the link to that Artcasters episode that I was on. And that's about it. So catch me on Instagram and Twitter. And as always, subscribe and like and comment and share and spread the news. And we'll catch you guys later. I'm out.